we are really not taught how to receive criticism. Like the only criticism we get in university is when the lecturer brings back the marks, you didn't do well. But it doesn't go deep in how you can accept that criticism and improve it in an environment like a workplace. So in workplace, you get there thinking, for example, I used to think I was the smartest student until I got to work. And I presented something and everybody crushed it. And I had zero comeback and I was shattered. Like, what? And I used to be the A student in class, but they crushed it. One line and no. In university, if you make a mistake, it's forgiven. You can get away with it. Yeah. In corporate, you make a mistake, that's business. That mistake can cost that business money. One error in a code can cost a lot of money. So mistakes are intolerable. So you have to be extra confident in your work and be sure that this is the right thing. So I think those is a combination of things that makes it very difficult to navigate it. And one thing that I always tell people is hire thinkers more than good workers. Because workers are going to do the job very well, but thinkers are going to find ways to do it efficiently. So for example, and thinkers are lazy people. So when you in your team, you must hire people who are lazy. So here's why: if you tell a worker dig a hole, right there they start digging. If you tell a lazy thinker dig a hole, he's gonna be thinking, what can I find to dig the hole for me?
The Groundbreakers, Mondays to Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. on TUT FM.
It is that time once again, that hour once again, and thank you so much for creating the space and the time. If you are a listener for the first time or watching us on our YouTube channel for the first time, this is what we do. We bring in top-notch people, top of the tree, from tech to finance to aviation to science. But we bring the best in the industry, tap their brains. And today, we are discussing a far more convoluted subject than I was arguing earlier on, that it straddles two worlds, the world of work and the world of entrepreneurship. And we're trying to combine the two worlds and understand what you do, whether you want to get into work, whether you want to start off as an entrepreneur in a world where the market is getting saturated. We do have today Vutomi Ngwenya. He will correct me if I'm wrong in terms of how he pronounces his name, but he's the founder of VJM Tech, and today we are talking navigating the workplace and entrepreneurship after university. He's in studio with us today. But before I get to the man and welcome him and get straight to the crux of the matter, I'll tell you that as a founder of VJM Tech, they say after 10 extremely happy, challenging and loving years in the corporate space, having led customer support, service and implementations team of up to 40 people, playing a significant role in customer service strategy, people and culture development, VJM Tech was born to revolutionize technology. Now, VJM Tech is on a mission to help businesses thrive and achieve more by offering customer experience, core business operations, business administration, and creating high performance culture. The man at the helm of all of this, the idea behind, the man who will call this his brainchild, is with us in studio. First, we would like to get into his mind around having moved from university and getting into that space as an entrepreneur. What does it really take in between? It's an honor to have you here, Vutomi. Thank you so much for your time. Good evening.
Good evening, and thanks, OBK, for having me. So this is home. So I graduated right here at the People's University, right here at Soshanguve, back in 2014. So I'm young, but I'm old. And just to give you some background, so when I did my first year in 2012, right here. I stayed at W there. And I ventured into a lot of things during my time here at TUT. And I ended up leading the SCO as a chairperson. I ended up going into SRC, and in 2013, 2014, I was the elected Secretary General. and that was one of the best, amazing experience there. And graduated my BTech and doing my postgrad diploma with still TUT Informatics.
Yeah.
And I also part-time lecture with the Department of Informatics. So I went into corporate for the past 10 years. I worked for a couple of big companies, Adapt IT being one of them, Skynamo, Shortech, CQS. And throughout the 10 years, I gained enough experience.
Yeah.
And when I looked at this experience, I realized, no, it's time to venture into my own thing.
Yeah.
And that's when VJM Tech was born. But before that, throughout, I started a few businesses that failed. So throughout the whole 10 years, I started a few businesses that failed. 3 businesses. One was Jacob Jew, one was Vastro Project. And also VJM Tech, we started in 2017 and we still failed.
Yeah.
And then we came back again last year. So that's the journey.
Yeah.
And now we are successful, we're doing very well. And I think now, after 10 years, we'll definitely get it right.
I could have easily probed the issue of you failing, but I'll park it there because it is going to feature right at the tail end of the conversation, especially once you move from university, spending time with credible companies to a point where you now have your own company. It's in itself 2 books. I can imagine. So let's start from a point where you were at the university, and here before we get to the crux of the matter, I want to explore your journey because there's a lot to learn from that as well. At the time you were coming out of university, did you at any stage, or is it a journey that just really branched off? Did you at any stage think, this is how much time I'm going to spend there and I'd like to have my own company, or is it something that happened as you go along?
So for me, it's something that I had since I was young. So I always wanted to be a businessman, wearing nice suits, because I thought business people just get rich like that. I didn't understand that they have to work for it. So it was always there. And when I was in university, that idea died, and the idea that became, I wanted to be a corporate guy. I wanted to now go do and be a specialist in IT. So it died when I was in university, and it was revisited again when I was now in corporate.
So how would you say the corporate space in the 10 years that you would have been there, and I would imagine that is enough to learn. How did that ready you for you running your own business? Because I think being part of the company and having your own company should be 2 worlds apart.
Yeah, and I think it's very important for any entrepreneur out there to start by working somewhere, and learning the tricks and learning everything somewhere. So how my 10 years in corporate prepared me is that I got to learn a lot about business that I didn't know at all. So I came in with my IT experience, with my IT background. I had no clue about sales. I had no clue about marketing. I had no clue about operations. And when I get into corporate, I start to see these things, and all these things play a big role in running a business. So now I can successfully run a business because I've been exposed to all of these key areas, right? And the reason some of the businesses failed is because I did not know some of these things before. I just came with IT. I thought I'm just going to build an app and then it's going to sell itself. But I couldn't. So working in a corporate, an established corporate, you learn things, you make mistakes with someone else's money, you make mistakes with someone else's balance sheet, you make mistakes with someone else's tools. So you get to learn. And with big corporates like the ones I was blessed to work in, you've got coaches, you've got people that teaches you when you make mistakes, so you learn. And when I had access to the CEOs, I got to see what they do. Okay, this is how they do, this is how they handle themselves, this is what they talk about, and that's how I started to learn also.
And that is precisely why I'm telling you, here you are talking about a man who could receive your CV and listen to how he thinks. Listen to what he wants when that CV comes in. Listen to him as he gives you a blueprint in terms of how to approach probably the future you are going into, the future that will look more challenging. And he has been in those spaces. He has seen the transformation and how we get to this particular point, it doesn't get more appropriate a man to have a conversation with around that. If you want to give us any question at all, please send us a WhatsApp on 012 3829257. Technicians are working furiously behind the scenes to field those particular questions. Now, let's get into what we are discussing today, which I think with your experience, you've laid a firm foundation for the conversation we are having tonight. And earlier on, I was looking at it and thinking, I will have to be very, very careful and perhaps too slow and break this into two. Because going to work and being an entrepreneur are the two things you have done, and certainly things that are not the same.
Yes.
You qualify to have a more credible view on both.
Yes.
And I want us to open that particular discussion when we come back from a quick ad break. Our guest tonight is founder of VJM Tech, Vutomi Ngwenya, and we are discussing, when we return, navigating the workplace and entrepreneurship after university. We are back after this. Welcome back. In case you have just touched down, our guest tonight on Plug A Graduate, it's an every Wednesday feature, is Vutomi Ngwenya, founder of VJM Tech, and we're talking navigating the workplace and entrepreneurship after university. And let's get down to the conversation now, Vutomi. Why is that transition, from your observation and your experience, from university into the workplace? And I want us to stay momentarily with the workplace. We'll move to entrepreneurship space so that this is a compartmentalized conversation. But why is that transition, in your observation, from university to the workplace so difficult?
So it's very, very difficult. Primarily, I think about three reasons. I think the first main reason is, in university, we are not taught what corporate and the workplace needs. You know, we are taught the content of the nature of the job, but by the time you get there, it's not what they need. That's number one. For example, in IT, what we're studying now, by the time you graduate in 3 years, it's outdated. So you get there, they are talking new technologies, new things that you do not learn anything. So it becomes difficult, because that means you start learning again in workplace. So everything that you learned, it becomes non-importance, right? So that's what makes it very difficult.
Sure.
The other thing that makes it difficult is that we are not prepared in university for the interpersonal relations that you need and skills that you will need when you are in the workplace. So you could be a good student in varsity, because all you do, you study, you go to the library, you go home. But when you get to work, you can't be a silo. You have to stand up in team meetings, you have to talk, you have to raise your opinion, and we're not prepared for that. Right? We're not prepared. So we get there, I'm an introvert, I sit in meetings, I'm quiet, and I'm not known, because I'm not used to that. I was probably that student who sit at the back in class, who just did my work. But there, you don't only do your job, you also need to play in a team, talk to your team members, ask questions, and engage. The other one is, we are really not taught how to receive criticism. You know, like the only criticism we get in university is when the lecturer brings back the marks, you didn't do well. But it doesn't go deep in how you can accept that criticism and improve it in an environment like a workplace. So in workplace, you get there thinking, for example, I used to think I was the smartest student until I got to work. And I presented something and everybody crushed it. And I had zero comeback and I was shattered. Like, what? And I used to be the A student in class, but they crushed it. One liner, no. That's not good enough. You didn't think about that. You didn't think about that. And because we're not prepared to receive that kind of criticism, it makes it difficult. So you get there, you try to speak up, they crash it first point, this is not what you're going to do. Or they don't even give you an opportunity to talk. You know? Probably there's hierarchy, you don't even raise a voice. You are not unable to cope. Those three things make it very, very difficult to navigate workplace, especially when you're starting. Because it needs you to come out of your comfort zone, so you are able to take in the punches, right? The other big thing is, in university, if you make a mistake, it's forgiven. you can get away with it.
Yeah.
In corporate, you make a mistake, that's business. That mistake can cost that business money. One error in a code can cost a lot of money. So mistakes are intolerable. So you have to be extra confident in your work and be sure that this is the right thing. So I think those is a combination of things that makes it very difficult to navigate it.
And you are saying something that's quite scary, because everybody wants good grades, and I think we would have heard from a number of guests who came on Plug a Graduate who said you being an A student doesn't necessarily guarantee you a bright future. So you are saying you are a living testimony of that. You had to experience that firsthand.
Yes, definitely. And one thing I've learned is an A student, in my opinion, has to work twice as hard as an average student in corporate, because A students are usually book smart. So you know the work, you know the book, but you lack in these other areas. You lack in collaboration, you lack in team work, you lack in team relations, right?
Yeah.
So A students typically, we are those kind of group that if the other team members are not doing their part, we'll just do the whole thing ourselves.
Yeah.
So we save time and then we submit and everyone just get marks. But in corporate, you can't do that.
Sure.
In the workplace, you can't just, I'll do it because you guys are lazy, you know?
Yeah.
So the average student gets to get things slightly easier than an A student, especially the A students that are reserved and introverts and want to be in their own corner.
Yeah.
They have to work extra hard. So their work needs to speak more than their personality.
Yeah.
With an average student who talks, they just have to talk to get out of anything, because it's easy for them to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's easy to engage. It's easy for them. But with an A student, we all want to focus on our little corner, do our work, and get out of there. And it makes corporate life very, very difficult.
Perhaps one of the issues that you raised that I want to get to, but I just want to get your view on that, because again, it's coming up once again in this particular conversation. The fact that if you study something now, in 3 years it is proving irrelevant. How do we then, what do you propose the solution to that is? Because for me it speaks down to really the education system, does it not?
So I think South Africa needs to do a lot of work in its education system, and not only in higher education, also in basic. Let me give you a small example.
Yeah.
In basic education, they say pass mark to pass a subject is 30. You get to university, pass mark is 50. Already there's a discontinuation there, right? So we need to do a lot of work. But one thing that we need to really do is we need to revolutionize our education system in such a way it stays consistent and relevant with technology trends, right? So, for example, what we were learning when I was in school, by the time we were learning, it was outdated. It was old stuff. It was reactive. It was not proactive. It was old stuff. When we got to industry, they thought that thing was outdated a long time ago. So for example, the new coding language now is Python. But there's not a lot of universities don't teach Python yet. It's not there. I'm not sure if TUT will have it now, but it's not there. But that's the new language. The new thing in IT now is business intelligence, artificial intelligence. But you look at the content we're offering, it's not there.
Yeah.
So the temporary solution lies on the individual. So two things: get yourself a mentor, a friend in corporate that can give you the latest trends and give you updates. The other thing is always learn in your spare time with the new technologies, get exposed to them. There's YouTube, there's Udemy, there's a lot of platforms where you can continuously learn. And I think that solves it in the meantime. But the bigger problem needs to be sorted out by our government in the entire education system.
Again, let's go back to the point you made about university giving you certain tools to be able to navigate certain treacherous spaces, but certainly not enough information in terms of how to completely handle the environment, as it were. You've spoken about skills. You've spoken about interpersonal skills as well that one need. I mean, give us a sense of what kind of skills are necessary if you are to really make it in a dog work a place like that.
Yeah. So I've been a hiring manager recruiter for 7 years in my 10 years experience.
Yeah.
So sitting the panel interview students and graduates and people with experience.
Yeah.
One thing that I've realized when we sit on the other side is what we're looking for is, one, confidence. Two, you must have made a mistake in your life.
Sure.
If you are perfect with zero mistakes, I can't trust you. Because I don't know if you've got the level of accountability, or are you going to own up to something. Because when you are interviewing, you are telling us everything about you is perfect. And most often we are afraid to share our mistakes in an interview because we think it's going to put us in a negative. But it won't.
Yeah.
We are actually looking to see these things. The biggest one is ambition. We want to see you ambitious. We want to see that this person is hungry. I can take this person and give him a big thing. One thing that I always tell people is hire thinkers more than good workers, because workers are going to do the job very well, but thinkers are going to find ways to do it efficiently. So, for example, and thinkers are lazy people. So when you in your team, you must hire people who are lazy. So here's why: if you tell a worker, dig a hole, right there they start digging. If you tell a lazy thinker, dig a hole, he's gonna be thinking, what can I find to dig the hole for me? So they become innovative and they find efficient ways to solve problems.
Yeah.
So you need to be a thinker who's willing to try things outside the box. You need to be a people's person. Relationships matter. Relationships are the second closest thing to God that can get you and make you successful. This is a world of men.
Yeah.
We relate with men. So that's the key thing. And be willing to learn and be willing to receive constructive criticism.
There you go. Like I said, giving you an insight into the boss's mind. Somebody who sits with your CV and decide your fate. He's saying you're not judged simply on the basis of the mistakes that you do. In fact, making that mistake could get you a job. It's just after 8:30. Polelo Madisa is standing by. Where is it? Yeah? All right. Polelo Madisa is standing by. It's time to go to the news. Welcome back from a quick break. We are into the last hour. Don't forget you can keep in touch through our normal ways of keeping in touch with us. The only way you do that though now is if you wanted to ask a question by sending a WhatsApp on 0123829257. And in studio with us today we do have Vutomi Ngwenya, who's the founder of VJM Tech, and today we are talking navigating the workplace and entrepreneurship after university. Of course, you are listening to us on Facebook at TUT FM 96.2, on both Instagram as well as Twitter. Well, formerly Twitter, now X. It's TUTFM _ 96.2, and worldwide on www.tutfm 96.2.co.za. Now let's talk about, before we went to the news, of course we were discussing issues around of course the difficulties that people who are moving from university getting into the job space are facing. Now talk to us about, struggling to connect certain things here, but talk to us about what normally I would need to do once I get out of university. I get a sense that at times you need to start while you are inside the university, preparing yourself for the outside world. What do I immediately do while I'm inside the university to prepare myself for the outside world?
All right. So while you are in university, I think besides doing well in your grades, you need to participate in extracurricular activities if you can.
Yes.
Because when you are sitting in an interview for the first time, they want to know what else were you doing besides reading books and studying. So if you can participate, whether it's joining a choir or sports or whatever that you can, participate in extracurricular activities. The other thing is you start working on your CV while you are in university. You start building your CV while you're in university.
Yeah.
You start adding it. So the other tip I want to give a lot of graduates is we tend to forget to add in our CVs the group projects that we work, and that's a good it's a project, and it's something you did, and it can work for you in an interview. So we tend to take those group projects for this subject as it was just schoolwork, but you need to add it because you don't have any other experience that you can add in your CV. So when I look at a CV and I'm just reading your details, which I see I can read, and you don't have anything else, it becomes difficult for me to have interest in you.
Yeah.
But if you add those things, that I was a group leader, a project leader for this project that did this, I was the minutes taker for our group. So those things add as a graduate. So you must remember to always add this as you participate in them. The other thing is, and it adds an advantage, is there's always student assistant jobs, tutors, mentors, all of those things.
Yeah.
If you can, please do. Because those that put you in an advantage. So for someone who just went to school, graduated, and someone who went to school and was a tutor, was a mentor, was a RES committee member, they have a slightly higher advantage compared to that one.
Yeah.
So those things you need to do while you are still in university.
Certainly demonstrate that you are a leader. You can take
you can take these things. You can take initiative.
All right. So mistakes often committed. There are a lot of misconceptions that we take from the university. For example, the fact that now that I've qualified, now that I've graduated, surely the world is waiting for me. I remember the guest last week was saying nobody is really waiting out there to save you. What are some of the common misconceptions and mistakes we make when we get outside the world?
The first one, especially for us tech guys in IT, it's a world of technology. Everybody in IT needs someone.
Yeah.
Anyone who has an IT degree will get a job. I can tell you there are more IT people who don't have jobs. That's the first one. We think that because of a university qualification.
I mean, even with the world driven by technology.
Even with the world driven by technology, there are people who, with IT qualifications, are sitting at home.
Sure.
There are tech companies in South Africa currently are retrenching. Big IT companies are retrenching IT people. So you are not guaranteed. And the other misconception that we have is we have this thing that after wearing the gown, immediately after wearing that gown, and I think this is, we were told in high school that go graduate, companies will run after you.
Yes.
There's no such thing as companies running after you. You think companies are running after you, you sit and you watch, right? Of course, there are companies that partner with the institution.
Yeah.
They look for top students. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But they are not enough. So if you are already not a top cum laude student, there's no company that is running after you. It is you who must run after the company.
Yeah.
There's no company waiting to spend money on salaries. You are the one who wants the job. So that's another misconception that we have, that they will be looking for us. There's no such thing.
Oftentimes than not, many speakers have said, we don't want people who are going to add numbers. We want people who are going, for me to employ you, show me the value. But how does value look like in the workplace? For you to say, Obakeng is adding value. How do you tell that, quite apart from doing what you tell me to do?
So you're raising a very lovely question. I like it. Yeah. The issue of value will always differ depending on the organization and their needs. Therefore, but the common one is, I'm not looking to hire someone who's a yes ma'am, yes sir. I say do that, you do it, and that's it. Because that means I'm doing the job. Yeah. You are just the hands. I'm thinking about it, right? So you add value by bringing your unique contribution. And in corporate, there's no such thing as a stupid idea. There's no such thing as you can't speak up against the CEO or whatever. No, sometimes CEO comes and say, what do you guys think? You have the opportunity to raise it, and there's no such thing as stupid idea. So bring tangible contribution to say, how about this? Have you thought about this? So bring yourself to the party. The other one, be willing to be exposed to everything. So don't say, I'm a developer, I'll just work in development. Because I might not need a developer, But if you can also do analysis, you can also
Yeah.
do this other thing,
Yeah.
then you'll bring
Yeah.
the different value that you want. So you must be flexible, you must be an all-rounder,
Yeah.
so that whenever there's a need, you are able to contribute, right? Yeah. And the other thing that people are always afraid of is to question their managers. You can, especially we want to be questioned, because sometimes we don't always get it right. So I always say a CEO that has people that don't question him is not going anywhere, because that means all his ideas are correct and they're final, because no one dares to challenge them.
Yeah.
So you must be willing to open up, challenge if we are doing something wrong, but challenge it in a nice manner, respectful, because you might lose your job if you are
Yeah,
disrespectful.
sure.
But be there, be present, be able to raise your ideas and raise questions, therefore, to say, why are we doing this? Why are we not doing this thing? And that's the value you bring. The other component of value, and is I use this a lot when I'm building a team.
Yeah.
So if I have a team of introverts who are quiet in the safe corner, then I need someone who's going to be an extroverted. So even if they lack in their work, but if they bring that energy extroverted,
Yeah.
I'm going to hire them,
Yeah.
because they're going to balance out the team. Sometimes we need value, someone who's going to contribute to culture, right? Who's going to keep the team in cohesion, who's going to make the team happy.
Yeah.
That guy, there's always that guy in a team who's always cracking jokes, you know.
Yeah.
He keeps the team sane, he keeps the team comfortable and unstressed. So the different values contribution you can bring. But one thing is that you need to understand your strengths and contribute more on your strengths.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are a bubbly person, talkative, motivating, bring that up, because even though you may not be contributing in the work, you are contributing in the psychology,
Yeah.
in the team building,
Yeah.
So that's what we need. So I usually always balance it out. If I have too smart, I also need the clever one. I also need the one that is, they are lazy, they don't do any work. All they do is talk,
Yeah.
and bring the team spirit up. We always want that.
Interesting how bosses think, because you'll never think that personality when you see your boss. You want to be on your best behavior, right? But that bubbly personality in keeping the team motivated and giving them the get up and go could get you that particular job. But I suggest you can't force it, though. If you don't
Yes.
have it, you simply don't have it. Bring your original character to the table. Now, one of the things is about access to opportunities. Getting out of university, how do you make sure that you are able to know where opportunities are? How do I make myself cross lanes with opportunities? Because a lot of people are saying, I now had to go back to school because there were no opportunities. Bosses are saying they are studying what I don't like. But how do I make sure that going out of school, I place myself, even if it doesn't give me a job immediately, but I'm in a lane where there are available opportunities?
So I think Google has to be your best friend.
Sure.
That's number one. Google has to be your best friend, always searching. And you're not only searching for jobs, right? You must also search for the top tech companies, top law firms if you're a lawyer, and all of that. So that you can position yourself to align with those companies. The other thing is, I don't know if we still do, we used to have career days before COVID where companies come and you get to learn more and they tell you how to get opportunities. And the other thing that I wanna stress a lot is, when you're looking for opportunities, don't only be contained in South Africa. Currently, with COVID has taught us that we can be remote everywhere, right? So also look at international opportunities that you can simply work remote, right? I can tell you, if you go on LinkedIn now, there's about 100 of remote jobs that are looking for people. In South Africa, you work from South Africa at the comfort of your home. You're working for a US company, you'll be earning in dollars. So don't only limit yourself in South Africa. Don't only look for Adapt IT, Amazon, because you know them. Also look for international companies and look at Amazon. The other thing I also want to stress is, often when we apply for jobs, right, especially from graduate, we are very specific with the knowledge of varsity that I'm a business analyst, And in real life, there's no company that's going to hire a business analyst who's just a graduate, right? So you shouldn't go for that top. You want to business analyst that is earning 70,000. There's no way I'm gonna pay you 70,000, and you are a business analyst from scratch.
Yeah.
So look for those. Besides internships or graduate programs, look for the slightly lower in the ranks, right? Technical support, all of those are who are slightly lower in the ranks, so that becomes your stepping ladder.
Yeah.
And be an all-rounder. Don't just go for your specialization if you specialize, or go for what your qualification says. Because sometimes you are a business analyst by profession, but there's no business analyst's job. So what are you going to do? So, but there's a network specialist, there's an IT specialist that you can go for. So always be an all-rounder. That's how you position yourself. And the CV must be drafted properly. There's no such thing as one CV fits for all. So if you are applying for 5 positions, I'm expecting to see 5 different CVs, because your CV must match the job description and the requirements. So if you're using just one level, there's definitely the others that don't match.
So you mean you're expecting 5 different CVs written in different ways?
Yes.
Is that what you say?
That's what I'm saying, because the job spec is different. So the CV must be different. So this CV must speak to the job spec. And I'll tell you why it's important. Well, we are living in an automation world. There's no human now that sits and reads your CV. It's a computer robot that is built up to scan. So if it says minimum requirement, there says less than 2 years work experience, and then in your CV you've got 3 years, you are already disqualified. And it's not a human that is disqualifying you. It is systems built in, because they've put the requirements there. You need to have, or they will say average 60% grade is a must. They put those weights. And then you, in your CV or in your attachments, you have 50s, you are not in 60. The system will automatically decline you. So that's why it's important to match your CV with the job spec that you are applying for. So read it and understand it, then you'll be able to position your CV correctly. The other thing is the words. Some words mean the same thing, but we are using them differently. So one's position says technical support, the other one says customer support. These two things mean the same thing, they do the same thing, but the wording in the job spec are different. So if you use the customer one on a job spec that is technical, you'll automatically get disqualified because you don't have technical experience. So even how you position certain words is very important.
This is very serious, guys. As I said, you have to take note of this, because he cannot be the only boss who's thinking that way. Many other bosses to whom you'll submit would probably have the same requirement. You've touched on the importance of coaching, mentoring, and oftentimes than not, I always ask, what value is it going to add? How important is that if you are to go into the job market? How is that going to help?
It's extremely important, because you don't know what you don't know. So when you are in 3rd year, final year, you don't know what you don't know. And a coach will tell you what you don't know and show you what you don't know. That's why it's important. If you look at every successful man, they either have a coach or a mentor or someone they go to. Everyone. Because in your own knowledge alone, you don't know everything. So you need someone slightly higher who has the experience, who can then give you that information and coach you on how to tackle certain things, right? So, for example, I've been interviewing for the past 6 years. I've been interviewed many times by different companies. I can coach you on interview skills, what to say, what not to say. But if you only have mentors that are in the same level as you, then it becomes difficult, because your knowledge is in the same level, so you don't know what you don't know, like I say.
Sure. So before I take a break, somebody was saying to me, things like my hobby is to run. Things like that do not really get anywhere to the boss's mind. In that CV, what should I add? What should I take out?
Yeah, I've said this before in one of the podcasts I was invited. So those things, I like to run, I like to read. Let's be honest, they're just wasting space in the CV.
Sure.
We are looking for. So here's the first part. The first part is you need to include things that are a requirement of the job spec. So we're looking for an excellent communicator. So you can put good, great in communication.
Yeah.
We're looking for an administrator. You say you can include good reporting skills, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, so that is just to pass the automation phase. Now the second phase, where is we the humans now go through your CV. We don't want what you do in your spare time, because they won't help us in anything. You're not coming to work to run or to read a book. I'm looking to see what have you done to contribute to success in any of the experience you have, in any of the group works you've done. So I want to see what have you contributed, right? So instead of writing my hobbies is to run, read, put in projects you've worked in, committees you've served in. I served as a secretary at SCO, I served as what. Because those tell me that you can actually do work. So don't include things that do not tell me what you can do in a workplace. Because if you tell me you can run, that only tells me you can run to work and that's it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tell me how you're going to do the work. So,
and there are a number of questions that are coming in. I will have to take a quick turn. It's going to be quite a quick turn, but take this question first. And you have people who are struggling in an interview setup being asked, what's your weakness? And nobody's comfortable telling the boss their weaknesses, surely. Those could cost you a job. Is there any way at all to answer that in a way that makes sense? To the boss, that is.
Yes, and there's no way you say you don't have a weakness. You are already out in my books.
But surely
there's
you
no
cannot
human
tell
being
that to the boss.
Yeah, so how you answer a weakness is you must answer it with a solution. So one of my weaknesses, this is how I answer it. One of my weakness is when I'm working on a project, I get too focused on this project that I don't want to do anything else. So it takes too much of my time so that I'm unable to prioritize well. But I've learned to work on it and start to and use a prioritization schedule to help me work on it, right? So you state it, but you also state what you are doing to improve that. So one of my time is time management. I can't handle I lose time when I'm working on different projects. But what I've done, I've scheduled a timer in my calendar to always help me when to move to the next project. Right? So you must have at least one weakness, but your weakness must come with a solution of how you cope with it. Yes.
Touched also briefly on, of course, volunteerism. A lot of people coming out of university would immediately be looking for that job, and I look at them graduating with a mixed pang of pain and excitement. In that pain, in a sense that the world out there is uncertain and their expectations might not be met. How important is volunteering? Because for somebody who doesn't have the patience, for somebody who has the immediate expectation of a job, might look pretty much like a waste of time. How important is that? So
it's very important because you get an opportunity to practice and learn what you can do in a workplace. And a mere volunteering at a wellness center like clinic, that one can teach you a lot of things that you're going to apply in corporate. It's going to teach you how to work with people you don't like, how to show up every day when you are not getting paid. It's going to teach you when you show up every day to work when you're getting less salary, So those things can teach you a lot of things that you will need in corporate. So if you can, please do volunteer, because when you volunteer, you are showing up every day to do something, and with a group of people or whoever, and there are going to be conflicts, there are going to be clashes, there are going to be disagreements, and you learn there, right? And now it's a safe environment because you've got nothing to lose. you, even if they fire you, it won't reflect on your record or anything. And when you go to corporate and you meet a conflict, you have learned how you've handled it before. It's easy for you to handle it, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important, and I strongly recommend when people have time to actually do volunteer, right? And also not only in university. So let's say you graduate, you don't have a job yet. You can approach VJM Tech, you can approach a company that, even if you don't pay me, I want to do some work, right? And then a lot of companies do that. And it also positions you. So the day you volunteer at VJM Tech, the day there's an opening, there's no advertising. I already have someone who knows the business, who knows the processes. I absorb you. So it also helps in that regard.
Tell you what, a number of questions are coming in. The Sihomoyeng has a question for you. We also have Paseka Maleka from Amanda Sech. That question is coming in. Emmanuel Aratlagane from Abopane AA. Those questions are coming in. Simon Lebesi in Soshanguve, Lerato Mapanga in M4S, Mpo from Soshanguve Block L. All of your questions coming up after the break.
Good evening in studio. My name is Kamokhela. I just want to ask Vutomi Ngwenya, what are his biggest mistakes that he did in corporate? And also, I want to ask him, given a big check or a check that he wished in all his corporate years by any company, will he ever go back to corporate? Thank you.
That's the question. Let's start with the biggest mistake.
So, I'll start with the biggest mistake I made when I was a manager in hiring. I hired people that could only succeed with me around, with my kind of leadership. And as soon as I left and a new leader that is different like me came in, they struggled. And I've seen it with everywhere that I've been a manager and I led. So that's the biggest mistake. Because it also makes life for the other manager difficult, right? And they would prefer a different way, right? So, for example, in my managerial style, I never ask you about work. I always ask you about you. I'm more concerned about you as a human being, how it's happening in your life, and not the work. And when I do that, you focus on the work yourself. But it's something that I know how to do. Then a leader comes in, they just focus on their work, and you're not used to it. You want someone to care about you, to check up on you. They don't do that. You get that. That's the biggest mistake. I hired people that could only succeed with me. And when I left, they struggle. And I'm learning not to do that at VJM Tech. Should I leave, God forbid, it should be able to succeed even without me. Right. The mistake that I made when I was working is assuming that my work will speak for me without me doing anything. Assuming that coming early at work, doing my job, keeping quiet will open doors for me. It didn't. It literally made me the last on the list because nobody knew me, right? And when I realized that, I started to change. I started to ask questions. I started to be open and talk. So that was one mistake I did. The other mistake I did, and this is very important, is I focused more on getting university qualifications and I didn't get certifications. And in IT, certifications matter more than university qualification. So now when you compete with someone who did a 3-month certificate in project management, this certificate in Python, that I just have a diploma and a BTech. I was outdated. Certificates were the new thing. Everybody was getting certified. Now some of the rules where we need an ITIL certified person, I didn't know. So that was a mistake I did, focusing on the university qualifications and not getting the short courses certifications.
And the second question was whether you would obviously consider leaving VJM should one company give you a very, very irresistible offer.
No, I'm not going back to corporate. And I'm corporate now. So what I can do with former companies, I can partner with them to offer my services. But I won't go back as an employee. I'm going to be a terrible employee now because there's no way I'm giving up on this God-given dream of building VJM. So we can partner to say, you need my services, I can consult. and we can agree on the pay terms, and you'll be consulting with the VJM. And it's also one of the offerings we offer at VJM, that we offer consulting services. So that I can do. But going back to corporate, it's not possible anymore.
Okay. Now that question, of course, was on voice note from Forget Nukeri, who was asking that particular question. Lesego Moyeng from WRES is asking, how did you adapt to the pressure of the corporate world within the ICT sector?
So I think being SRC helped me, because I was now a people person. I talked too much, and then, so when I got to corporate, I started to do that. I spoke with everyone. I started to become political, and I almost got in trouble because my manager was called me to a one-on-one, saying, "That's not how you speak here." You know, I'm like, okay. But how I coped is, one thing that I really do well is to build sustainable relationships. So how I coped, I got there first day, I spoke to everyone, I made friends with everyone. So even when I was in trouble, they would tip me up front. Hey, you are in trouble. Then I would prepare. Hey, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, right? So that's how I coped. I built relationships. And people that started with me, they'll tell you that guy he can annoy you. I ask questions. Even if I know, I ask so that I can be sure. I ask, and that's how I became, and I coped.
Most people like that would do it. Are you able to take it as a boss now? Do you get annoyed when people ask questions?
No, I don't. I get annoyed when you ask the same question.
But so, you ask, which is the same question. But,
if it's the same question, I get annoyed, but I understand. Because I've been there. I can take it.
Sure. Paseka Maleka from Amanda Ser is asking, how does one keep up with forever growing and changing technology? It's an important question.
It's simple. Especially in IT, if you've chosen IT, just sign it somewhere that you are going to study till you die. It's done. You can't sit and relax. So you keep up with reading. Be friends with YouTube. Be friends with Udemy, and be friends with Google. Google the latest trends. Google the new tech trends and read about them. Currently, I'm reading about artificial intelligence in hospitals. Right? It's not in existence as yet, but it's coming. A robot can just operate you, diagnose you, and give you health advice. It's coming. I'm currently reading about it. So read and learn, and when you read and learn, you can start to position yourself for the future, because now this artificial intelligence is coming. Right? How do I position myself to be able to be relevant in that industry, right? Like, for example, when the self-service at McDonald's, KFC came in South Africa, we're all shocked. We're not prepared because we're not reading about it, but it's been happening for many years in America, but we were not prepared. So the best way is to read and follow biggest IT people. There's a lot of platforms on LinkedIn, on YouTube that you can check out.
Familiarize yourself with the latest trends.
Yes.
Right. Emmanuel Ratlagane from Abopane AA is saying, how does a person integrate artificial intelligence into their everyday life to make it easier with losing human contact? Not sure if you get the gist of that question.
I do. So I think the best way to answer it is you will never fully lose the human contact and the human touch, right? So the best way is to accept that technology will take over certain things in your life and embracing that change. For example, back in the days, we didn't have a dishwasher. We didn't have a dishwasher. We had a washing machine, but we didn't have a dishwasher. So now it's embracing that there's now a dishwasher. I don't have to do dishes. But the dishwasher cannot wash pots. You see? But that means there's still going to be certain components that are human, that need the human touch, right? So it is to embrace this change and look at how it helps the human, right? And not how it destroys the human. So just look at how it helps the human, and even through the help that it provides, there's always going to be a human touch.
Right.
So a dishwasher needs to be pressed by someone. It's not automatic.
Yeah.
It needs to be loaded by a practical human, living human, you know. So it's embracing these new changes and allowing it to be a part of us, and also accepting that there's always going to be part where we play in it.
Yeah. If you do have a question, 012-382-9257. We do have a voice note now.
Hi, since you've been in tech, since you are running a company now and you've been in corporate for 10 years, there is this question is always running in my head, and a lot of people I've asked, but I'm not getting a good answer. It's saying that in many tech companies, candidates with an advanced qualification such as master's degree, honors, and so on are sometimes deemed overqualified and may face difficulties in securing a position. So what's your take on that part? Number two, it's what are the certifications should IT student consider pursuing to remain competitive and up to date with industry's trend? Thank you.
That forget Nugeri on voice note, 2 questions that he has fired. Let's start with question number 1 around the issue of overqualification.
Yeah, so it's very true. Overqualified, there's no way you're getting employed. It makes it difficult to get employed. I'll give you a practical example. Masters, doctorate, they do research. They don't do actual work or of how to do stuff, right? And majority of tech companies are not research and innovation driven. They are more development, building a tangible product or software, right? So you won't be an addition there. The other thing is that means you've accumulated so many years of knowledge that comes from university that we deem already outdated. So that means you've got zero current knowledge. So it means if I take you, I'm going to work extra hard to teach you. And when you are now in a level of masters and doctorate, that means unlearning certain things is going to be difficult. So when you are a fresh graduate with a diploma and a BTech, unlearning stuff is easy. But when you're now in a master's level, a doctorate level, unlearning stuff is very difficult. So if you pursue masters and PhD, just prepare yourself to be a lecturer and a speaker. See, that's fine. And you'll share advice, you'll sit in boards, that's fine. But if you want to do actual contribution in tech, you'll need to do certifications. Now, it moves on to the next questions. What are those certifications that you really need to stay in line with trends? The different IT fields require different specialization. So if you are more into operations, you need Sigma, you need ITIL. If you are more into project management, you need Prince2, you need PMBOK. So there are different certifications. If you are a developer, every latest language or new language, you need to read it and get certified. The current ones that I advise students to go do now is Azure. Microsoft Azure is the big thing now. Microsoft Dynamics is the big thing now. So those ones are the trending ones at the current moment. So you can do those ones, right? I think those helps. But each specialization differs with what specialty certification you can get.
Let's take this one from Simon Lebesi in Soshanguve before we take a break, and I would urge you to send those questions on 012-382-9257. And Simon is asking here, what extracurricular activities can you suggest for ICT students, and how can one manage their time so that it does not affect their life and studies?
Yeah, so one of the mistakes I made when I was in university is I focused too much on politics and everything else that I started to fail. And people were even shocked that you did IT, the way you were so available and busy. So balancing time is very important. So look at first your strengths. What are you good at? What do you really like? So if you like acting, you can join Drama Society. If you like debate, you can join the debate team as a choir, depending on what you like, right? And do it as the word says, an extracurricular. The main focus is your studies. That's an extracurricular
Yeah.
that you do when you have time. So you don't stop attending classes and you go do that. That's not how I do, right? So depending on what you can do. The other one that I suggest people do is, it's not really an extracurricular activity, but it helps, is becoming a mentor. Because that pushes you to study more. Because if your mentee comes and asks you a question that you don't know, it's going to be embarrassing. So you have to push more. Become a mentor, join the mentors, be a lab assistant. Even though some of us, when we're lab assistants, we just go there and watch YouTube, but do those things, right? Because then those things you can add in your CV, that I did this and I did that, I did that. But discipline is more important. That my number one priority is my studies. That's why they are called extracurricular activities. You are just doing it in your spare time.
All right, let's take a very quick break, and we'll continue after they sent those questions. Let them come in on our WhatsApp. It's 0123829257. We're back after this.
Good evening, Vutomi and the team. My question is, how do you perceive companies that hire a significant number of graduates for year-long internships with no intention of offering employment at the end, solely to continuously receive funding from SETA? And also, if VJM were to hire graduates, how would the company approach this differently from other SETA-funded companies to ensure a more meaningful and supportive experience for the graduates?
That's a very important question. Please get into that.
So it's a very difficult question, and now that I'm in business, I know why it's difficult. So it's not that companies offer graduates because of SETA funding and that's the end of it. It's primarily because we've got a high rate of unemployment, right? And when there's funding, so for example, as VJM now, we've got a team of 10, including me. We don't have the funds to hire more than that at all, and in our own balance sheet. And SETA can come and say, we've got funds to pay these kids, give them experience, work with them, and we can place 10 more. But that means as soon as SETA's funding ends, we as a business can't afford them anymore. That's why we work with SETA. So we can't afford them. It's sad that you have to let them go, even though they're good, they're great, but because of the current business balance sheet, you can't afford to pay them. So that's why it's a challenge. So it's not that now I'm a businessman, I'm speaking for businesses, but it's one of those challenges, right? So it's not always that they just give you to waste your time. The intention is not to waste time. So we always hope that with SETA funding, we'll be able to pay your salaries, and hopefully we'll grow and need an expansion while you are still there. And if it doesn't happen, it's unfortunate. But the benefit is you get experience. You get the work experience that can speak to you later on, right? That you can use for another job, right? The South African job market currently is very tricky. And SETA and the YES programs and other government initiatives are really trying to help that market, right? But it's not enough. How we are doing it differently in VJM is we are not taking SETA funding for now. So we had an opportunity at SETA through the advancement office. They want to place 5 people, but we are going to decline that offer. Primarily because we want to build a sustainable team. So when we look at our projections, by the end of June next year, we won't be where we want to be. So that means we'll have to say goodbye to these kids. So we don't want that. So we're gonna decline it. So that's how we're doing it differently. So we hire graduates for long term. So that's why even our positions are not called graduates. They're not graduates. You are an employee. You are an IT specialist. You are a business analyst. You are whatever. Because we want to hire people that wanna walk this project with us, walk this journey with us. But I do think that we should be a little sympathetic with the guys that are using SETA. It's because if you look at their balance sheets, they really can't afford to pay any salaries unless you are willing to say, I'll continue even if you don't pay me. But it becomes difficult. You can't work without getting a job, right? So it's just a difficult one.
Sure. All right, let's take these two very, very quick questions. One from Lerato Mapanga from M4 who's asking, what opportunities are there within South Africa for ICT student with no experience?
There are quite a lot of opportunities. There are two things. Their timing of when they come out is very tricky because they're not throughout all the year. So they usually come out Jan and June. Those are the majority of the time where these opportunities come in. But there are a lot. And another thing is companies prefer now to partner with institutions. So companies don't prefer to go and advertise their own and you apply there because then you are giving them more work and they don't want to do the work. So they decide to partner with universities. So whatever university you are in, if you're in TUT, you speak to the advancement office, they are in, right? They'll tell you there are bursaries here, there's this here, there's this, because that's what companies do. We partner with institutions, we give them money, we give them a list of what we want, they give us a list using whatever criteria we give them. So use that. And again, let Google be your friend. Search about these opportunities. What are opportunities there? And you'll find them. But there's a lot of opportunities. It's just that they are not throughout the year because they're targeted for fresh graduates with no experience. They usually come out early in the year and early in June.
Right. Here's our last question before we wrap up the show. Paul from Soshanguve Blog is asking, does the artificial intelligence seen in movies really exist?
Yes, it does. Majority of it does. And the fact that you see it, that means it's created. Someone had to build it, whether it was a code or a design. That you see, the fact that you see it, it exists. It's just that a lot of USA movies, Europe movies, they are more advanced in technology, so they get to experience these things later on, and we see them now, right? But they do exist. They do exist. Some of them they tweak here and there just for the specific movie, but all of those artificial intelligence exists.
You know what? Flat out of time brings us to the end of our conversation, and maybe before I let you go, I was about to suggest when you were saying there is no funding coming in, maybe all founders and CEO need to take a pay cut then to make space for those who would like to get an opportunity. You've been great sport. Thank you so much for having a conversation with us.
Thanks. It was a great show.
All right. This is it. Thank you so much to the team as well. Obakeng Aubrey. Thank you so much. Tepiso Kokani is not here, but in spirit with the team. Simply G, pressing those buttons furiously. Pololo Madisa, thank you so much as well for your time. Obakeng Moeketsi. Kidiboni Vamahapa is the producer. Remember what I always say, you don't stop because you are tired. Stop because you are done. Good night.
The Groundbreakers, Mondays to Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. on TUT FM.